Oh, hey.
Hey!
Right, what is the deal with this video then? See, Persona 3 is considered to be sort of a, well, major shift for the direction of the Persona spin-off series. And in case you're, well, not in the know, the Persona series of games got started as a spin-off from originally Shin Megami Tensei. So I think the first two games were called the Shin Megami Tensei Persona. Like, that was the entire title, Shin Megami Tensei : Persona. And at some point we had Persona number, like its own series, as we know them from Persona 3 onwards. Now, my history with Persona is like this. I wrote a review in some magazine where they spoke, well, yeah, where they had really good things to say about Persona 4 on the PlayStation 2. And then I stumbled across that in in a used shelf in a department store on Iceland of all places. So I bought it, and yeah, my first playthrough didn't really resonate, shall we say. But then, well, I felt it was a bit too light. And then I heard about Persona 3. People said it was a bit more, well, dark-ish. So that was the Persona game I played second. It hit harder than P4, to make a long story short. And then I moved on to play Persona 5. Out of the Shin Megami Tensei series, I have played SMT4 and Apocalypse. Those I played first. I've also played SMT3 Nocturne, the remaster. That was the, well, I also tried the PS2 port that they released on the PS3 section of PSN, along with Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2. And actually, just the other week, I finished Shin Megami Tensei 5 on the Switch. To make a sort of testament on how much of an impact Persona 3 had on me, it changed a little how I speak. I think the Discworld series of books are the only other media I can name off the top of my head that has had the same effect. But with regards to Persona 3, well, when you hear me say, oh hey, in my videos, that is not always conscious, which, you know, that in itself should be an indication, but it comes from Persona 3. And well, the voice clip that they play when Yukari, well, greets you when you come back to the dorm. That is, well, I think that's what she says anyway. Whatever. If it weren't for that social link with the, I think it is the Hermit, with the MMORPG who turns out to be a teacher. If it wasn't for that social link in Persona 3, you would never ever hear me say Rufflecopter or Elemayonade. To be fair, you don't hear me say that very often, as is, but if it weren't for Persona 3, I would never use those words, period. So I just made a gesture. You probably saw that, I'm sure, over the microphone. Now, when I played Persona 5, I did notice a few things that seemed to, well, there were similarities, or something that seemed to be directly inherited from Persona 3 in Persona 5. And yeah, I just wanted to point some of those out. Some of them you may think are a little far-fetched, or maybe they are just coincidences. Fair enough, just yell at me in the comment section, like proper YouTube users. And by the way, now that we have an announced remake in Persona 3 Reload on the way, I want to stress that the idea for this video came a long time before that, and arose from a well, from an exchange on some other social media that I frequent. Now, before we get to the meat and potatoes of the video, I want to make a little disclaimer. See, I intend this video to be viewed by people who are familiar with Persona 3, well, from before. We've played Persona 5, we've played both games really, but hey, if you're just a random nerd who happens to be curious, now that you've been hearing things about Persona 3 and the coming Reload, and you're curious, and if you're curious about the game, well, you're welcome too. Just so we're clear, I will not shy away from any kind of spoilers, but to be fair, there's really nothing specific about the story I need to mention. Maybe a few characters here and there, but well, yeah, and maybe an event or two, but nothing more than the existence of an event, I think. We'll see. Now, Persona 3 revolves around Tartarus, which is a, I think, 264, 65 maybe, floors high tower, where every normal level or floor is a randomly generated dungeon. Well, the mementos we get in Persona 5 is pretty much exactly that, although it only has about 80 floors, if, well, what I read at the Megami Tensei fandom is anything to judge from. But it still seems to be the same general idea, that is to say, a randomly generated dungeon with well, groups of floors really, with well, different appearances, different textures at the wall and the like. And in both games, these groups of floors are unlocked through story progression. Both actually, I would argue, tie into the themes of the game in a different way, but very, well, yeah, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but I would say that they are appropriate for the game they are in. And then you can maybe, you know, write the proper word down in the comment section. While exploring Tartarus, initially I just felt that this was just a Sisyphus task. You know, Sisyphean? How the hell do you say it in English anyway? In my language, we phrase it as Sisyphus work. But yeah, English is not my native language, so you can please tell me how that works in the comment section as well. Now, Mementos, on the other hand, felt more like going deeper, like a deep exploration of, well, something. In the case of Persona 5, that would be the common social psyche. In Persona 3, they had this mechanism where the main character could become sick, well, in part because random chance, I think, but also due to spending too much time in Tartarus. And this mechanic was not present in Persona 4, and I read an interview where the developers had less forgiving eyes for the mechanic than I did. However, in Persona 5, the weather in the outside world can impact mementos, and maybe I'm just well speculating by myself here, but I got the impression that the weather in Persona 5 works in just the same way as illnesses did in Persona 3. Well, sort of. Well, the specific effects are of course different between the different games, but it's, as I see it, the same general idea. You could also argue that it is equivalent to the possibly, I say possibly, random thing where Tartarus was in some days more likely to spawn floors filled with golden shadows or purple glowy shadows, or only gold chests, that kind of thing. The Reaper, as far as I know, first appeared in Persona 3. If we compare the designs, I think it should be pretty obvious why I well, link Persona 3 to the appearance of the Reaper in Persona 5. It also appears using the well, same sort of rules. That is to say, you spend a certain amount of time, or well, in Tartarus or Mementos, or if there are certain ambient conditions, it is more likely to appear. And I think in Persona 3 you could also trigger some kind of curse when drawing Persona cards to trigger the appearance of the Reaper. I mean, I'm leaning more towards this just being a, not to the fans of the series, not really something meant to be significant in any way. But, I mean, can't argue with the likeness. In Persona 3 Portable, they added a female main character, well, and a couple of new social links. And yeah, the changed navigation. Well, something I don't really hear people talk as much about is how the atmosphere of the game changed between, well, original Persona 3 or P3 FES and P3 Portable. The original experience and FES is some of the most dreary, darkest, despairing, depressing gaming experiences I've ever had. Well, might say a few things about the nature of the games I do play, but I mean, there it is. it's at the top of that list. And yeah, the seemingly endless levels of Tartarus added to the feeling of a Sisyphean task. Almost all the social links for the male main character, yeah, I mean, they did not actually remove those in Persona 3 Portable. You just have to play as the male main character. They also, of course, kept that in the remaster of the portable version. Now, all of those social links, almost all of them, deal with some kind of existential crisis or some kind of social injustice or misery or what have you. I mean, there's like the Sun social link. You might remember the dying guy. And of course, then there's Chidori, the stuff between Shinjiro and Ken. Well, and the ending, which I actually did not figure out for years after having first played the game. I mean, I didn't figure it out firsthand either. I had to read up on it and just. I was confused. I did not see how that added up at all. So I saw very few glimpses of light. I mean, nice things in base Persona 3. And of course, the fewer of one particular thing you can find in, well, one context, the more they stand out. Specifically, the things I'm thinking about is Yuko. I mean, maybe she isn't the most interesting character in the game, fair enough. I mean, your mileage may vary, but I quite like her as a person. Again, maybe she's not the most interesting character to me either, but I mean, if there is one person in all of Persona 3 that I would want to befriend in real life, it would be Yuko. Just not that not that she's like waifu material for me, but I mean, fair enough, she's she's not the worst, just saying. And of course the Max social link event for Yukari, that was just golden to me. And well, then there's the MMORPG social link. I think it's the Hermit in base Persona 3, the one with the teacher, the ruffled copter and the like. Yeah, without which I would of course never use words like ruffled copter. And keep in mind that if you don't know what you're doing, if you take your time playing the game, it takes between 90 and 120 hours to finish, at least. It does. It did for me. Yeah. Around 100 hours, and you have that few nice things to go with. This game is dark. So, what happened then with the female main character is that a number of social links were replaced, and in my experience, they did brighten up the atmosphere. I mean, some were still pretty messed up, to be fair. I mean, the rumors around the new hermit, the librarian or health club, health committee, something leader, that was it did not sit well with me, but they also nixed, of course, the moon social link, and that one was, I am happy to be rid of it. Let's leave it at that. Now, the end result is, I would say, something around the level of darkness and, well, yeah, it's the same kind of atmosphere as I found in Persona 5. I mean, let's be fair. The first part of Persona 5, you know, the Kamoshida arc, I don't think there has been anything as horrifying in any Persona game for me. I don't know if that holds true. I mean, if everyone else felt that, but you're gonna have a hard time beating that. That was just awful, 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 awful. I mean, with the suicide attempt and everything, it's just, god damn. They really came out of the gate swinging with that game. But then there's just so much else in Persona 5 that's just comical, entertaining, and just well, fun and dare I say, games. Like the Monobus for one thing. Yeah, it's, there's a lot of dark in Persona 5, yes, but it's also balanced by a ton of fun.
It seems the time has finally come. Morgana! Transform! Come now, Panther. Ladies first.
And to conclude this video, a note about the palaces. While Persona 5's palaces are available for a much longer period of time in the game than the full moon operations in Persona 3, in both games they are kind of one-shot things. Once you beat the boss of the palace, they disappear, and the full moon operations are never repeated. In Persona 4, the TV worlds we go to there, they are often used for quests and for some necessary level grinding and item grinds, and they just don't disappear the same way. So that is all for this video. Can you think of anything that I missed, or yeah, or if you want to out-nerd me in some kind of way, the comment section is the right place for that. Yeah, this has been, I think, the first major scripted feature on this channel. Who knows if there will be more.